Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Hey, good morning, folks.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat.
Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are.
There it is, team. Morning. Morning, wherever you're tuning in from today.
Early bird gets the worm, they say. Here at Positive, we offer a 6-star team. It's a team that help you at every stage of your wealth creation journey.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wealth Coffee Chats Finance Friday. I am one of your hosts, Damien Hauser, and one of the mortgage brokers here at Positive Money, and my co-host, Sarah Schoen.
Hello.
So we thought today we were going to do a dynamic duo here in lovely Ballarat, where we do have some properties coming on the market here very shortly. And what we're going to be doing is talking about, I have purchased an off-the-plan property, and what do I do now? So what it is that I've just purchased a property here, and it's going to settle within about 2 years. And as the client, I've come to Sarah, and what do I do now, Sarah? How do I actually do the process from here?
Yeah, so the process is, well, I guess it's quite an exciting time at the moment because you've just bought a new house and everyone's very excited about things moving. But the next couple of years can go quite quickly, even though 2 years does seem like a long time, and a lot of things can happen in that time. So initially, before you bought off the plan, you would have had a review with your mortgage broker and then gone through. So you're understanding your affordability, but it's really important to keep that going. So my suggestion is, and what I do with my clients is we review that every 3 months. Okay, so things can happen. You can get a credit card. The car could die and now you need a new one, or maybe you want to change jobs. All these sorts of things can have really big impacts on your borrowing capacity and even lifestyle. I don't know, maybe the kids need to go to school now and we're looking at, what type of school you're going to put them in. All these things can make a difference to your borrowing capacity when it actually comes time to settle. So it's really important that we actually meet with our brokers regularly and go through our affordability. Do we still have the same structure that we wanted to do originally? Do we still have the same lender options? Are we now looking at different lender options? And that constant review means that when it comes around to settlement, we've already put strategies in place to be able to settle in the way that we want to, rather than you get to the finish line and now you need to figure out what you're going to do because your borrowing capacity may have been jeopardized.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Sarah, for me as a client, and sometimes that we do need some extra funds available to actually purchase a property instead of using my own funds, because sometimes I might actually have the funds available, but I don't want to use that because it might be used for a rainy day. So I do have another property, I can actually get some equity out of that. When's the right time to actually come and talk to you about that, to actually start that process?
So again, it's really going to come down to the person and their situation. Some people need the money upfront, pay their upfront deposits, in which we can release the equity straight away. Others may wait until a little bit further down the track because they're not ready to release that equity yet, or sorry, I should backtrack. We can release the equity. But the question of timing is a common one. So my recommendation to my clients is that to release the equity while you have the equity. And I know that's something that Jason talks about a lot as well, because then it's sitting there and it's in your bank and it's secure and you know exactly how much you're going to get and so on. We're not dependent on future valuations of the property. But in terms of when you have to do it, well, obviously we need to do it prior to settlement. My recommendation would be to do it up front. There is ways that we can set that up as well so that it's not costing you money over that time, and that you're only paying interest on what you've actually used.
Yeah. And look, do you think sometimes that, when we're pulling out equity, look, because you did say that, it's a good way to do it in advance and things like that. Do you think also it's a good opportunity to advise clients that, you can actually use that equity for the deposit prior to getting your property, if you put an expression of interest, and also is when, you don't have to use your own money funds to do that as well.
Yeah, so at the time when we look at your borrowing options, we make sure that the structure that we're proposing is effective for you, and then setting that up for you over that 2-year period as well. I just want to touch on, you sort of mentioned it, just sort of came into my head about using the funds of equity. You have to be really disciplined in it as well. So again, as I said before, it's going to really come down to the person, but if you're the type of person that's probably just going to touch the funds, and you know what, I'm going to throw my own husband in there, he would absolutely use the funds, then, I would probably release that equity a little bit later. But, if you're quite disciplined and won't touch those funds, then we can release them up front and we know that we've got the funds. So in terms of structure and things like that, we work backwards. So we say, okay, let's work out your borrowing capacity and so on. And all that's really telling us is how high we can jump, really, in all reality. Then when we go through our strategy appointment together, that's when we're starting to knuckle down, what type of structure, how are we going to make this tax effective and so on for you. And then not only that, because that's quite simple stuff to do in lending, but the important part, and I think where Positive Money really stands out, is we work out the strategy piece. So, what's going to happen in the next 10 years' time, or how many properties do you want to buy, or what is your personal goal that you want to achieve, and how are we going to do that? So, and I really feel like this is a big area where a lot of people miss. So, if you want to buy, let's say, 3 properties in 5 years' time, well, we need to equate for that. So when we're releasing equity, do we do it all now? Do we do it all in stages? What is that going to be? How much property do you want to buy? How much is that going to cost? Let's put that into a strategy piece. Let's work towards that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we keep moving on, I thought I'll just give a quick shout out to Kevin in Florida. Good morning, Kevin. I hope you are well.
Well, it'd be evening in Florida.
Yeah, it will be. So good evening, my friend. Now, the other question that people might have to, ask from us, and especially me as a client, when you advise me that the valuation has come in, so if I purchase the property when I've just started today for, we'll say, 650,000, and in 2 years' time, when we actually are ready now to prepare for the finance and prepare for the everything, and the valuation now has come in 100 grand more, so it's from 650 to now 750. what actually happens there with my finance? What can I do with that kind of higher value now?
Obviously, you've bought a positive property
I
for it to
have,
jump
yes,
up that high.
exactly.
Look, it's really lender specific, but 9 times out of 10, we can use the higher valuation. But again, and I want to put a huge disclaimer on that, it really depends on your LVR. So LVR stands for loan to value ratio, and it's just a fancy way of saying what percentage of the property value are we borrowing. Okay, so in terms of being able to use the higher figure, we're usually limited to 80% because the mortgage insurance won't take the risk on the higher valuation amount, but the lender may be willing to do so. So when we're looking at lower LVRs overall, then we may have an option, and I really want to say may because it really does depend on the lender, but more your mainstream ones would allow you to go and use that higher valuation, which then again falls back into that strategy piece of, you know, now I want to buy 3 properties. This is my first one. How much equity release do I need? How much of that money can I save? So I've got buffers and so on. All of this comes into play when we're reviewing your financial situation and structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really good some points here. So to recap on what Sarah and I have pretty much given you some really good insights on when you actually have purchased your off the plan. Like Sarah said, it's all about strategies and structures going to happen and come into play. So when you actually have purchased that property and you have got 2 years to wait for it, it's about thinking about what's that goal to get to that end settlement, to making sure that that's going to happen, run smoothly. Because like Sarah said before, sometimes we might have credit cards that we might need, but is it really the right time? And how much is that going to affect our borrowing power? Exactly the same if you're going to do personal loans or even car loans, because you never know, at the end of the day, your car might break down and you might need a new car, or you might need things that for school that come out of the blue and you need some bit of money to come into play. So always have those chats with your broker. If you've got a Here with Positive Money, with your designated coach, and having those chats on a regular basis to making sure, is my borrowing power, is my servicing always going to be ready to go and ready for this purchase in 2 years' time? Because you just don't want to have any sort of limitations and thinking, how this is a great property to buy, but now I can't afford it. So always having those conversations at the right time with the right people to make sure that you feel comfortable, they feel comfortable, because also at the end of the day, Sarah and I do not have a crystal ball on what's going to happen in 2 years' time as well. We don't know if rates are going to go up or if rates are going to go down. If they do go down, we're in a really good position. But what if they go back up? Can you afford it too?
Yeah, and I think that's really important. Sort of raised some really good points there. Don't be reluctant to have the conversation. I've had clients that have called me and said, oh, Qantas has got some really good points, deals out at the moment. I want to get a credit card. Can I do that? Is that in my affordability? And so, you know what, we just ran servicing and it was fine. And, you know, I personally would do anything for a Qantas point. So I do understand that where she was coming from. But I think sometimes we get reluctant to have conversations because we're scared of the outcome. And another part to this as well is that we understand the structure. So, you know, you need to be able to have a chat with your broker and understand what's being proposed towards you as well, because it's your money and your loans. So you need to understand very clearly, and your broker needs to be able to explain this in layman's terms to you, how it's all going to work.
Yeah, 100%. And I've just actually had another bit of a thought while Sarah was talking. We've just talked about like having extra debts, but the other main thing that we also have to think about is your income. Now, at the time, I might be making really good income when I've actually purchased a property. But to say if I've changed jobs and my income has reduced, or I'm not getting any more bonuses or allowances, it's exactly the same sort of concept. You have to always talk to your broker on a regular basis to making sure, okay, I've changed jobs. This is now my situation. How much does that affect on my borrowing power? Because at the end of the day, like I said, we've always talked about debts, but income does have also a big play. So again, if you've got your income has increased and you're getting bigger bonuses, bigger allowances, and things like that, that's fantastic. That's going to improve your servicing. Instead of maybe going from 90%, you might be in a position to go 80%. But again, it doesn't matter on your concept on what you do in life. And don't be afraid to always try and pick up the phone or send an email to your broker to have that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, this is something that I schedule with my clients every 3 months. So, we might have a Zoom conversation where we run through borrowing capacities and we do the whole structure all over again, and we just check that everything's on track, and probably more of a strategy session, as opposed to, the next one might be just a phone call to say, has anything changed? Are we all good? And so on. But it gives you peace of mind that when settlement rolls around, you're going to be perfectly fine. We know who we're going to. We know what our lender options are. We know what our structure is. We know what our plan is. And, I often say, if you've got a backup plan, you won't need it. But when you don't have a backup plan, that's when you're going to need it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I hope everyone enjoyed our Finance Friday Wealth Coffee Chat this morning. I hope everyone has a fantastic day and a good weekend, and we'll catch you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.
General advice disclaimer. The information provided is general in nature and does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or needs. Before acting on any information, you should consider whether it is appropriate for your circumstances and seek professional advice from a licensed financial advisor. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the information, it is not guaranteed. It is based on our understanding of regulations and laws as at the publication date. As these are subject to change, you should talk to a professional advisor for the most up-to-date information. Any examples or illustrations provided are for illustrative purposes only and are not a guarantee of future performance. We do not accept any liability for any loss or damage incurred by reliance on the information provided. Any opinions expressed are subject to change without notice. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and all investments carry risks. Neither the hosts, guests, nor any affiliated entities accept liability for any loss or damage arising from reliance on the information provided. By listening to this podcast and viewing this presentation, you acknowledge and agree to these terms.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6 Star team here at positivementor.com.au.